All right, so let's take a look at the rig we're going to create in this lesson. So what we have here is these NURB controllers, which allow us to move the ball around. We have a NURB controller on the top that allows us to squash and stretch our model. Um, if I hit 4 on the keyboard here, you can see that's our wireframe mode. We have these weird green circles in here, and they're called joints, and they're connected to these guys. And these joints are skinned to this polygon model of a ball, which we're going to create. And it has this checkerboard pattern, which is a texture. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and just double click the Maya icon and fire up a fresh copy of Maya. So what we're going to do is a really quick interface mockup, because as we go through, you're going to learn a lot about the interface and how to do things. So right off the bat, let's make sure that we are in Maya Classic view. So you can see up at the right, the top here, it says Workspace, and you have all these different types. So if I click on animation, it'll turn it to animation, Maya Classic. Actually, let's go ahead and do modeling, because we're going to be doing modeling first. So let's go ahead and switch it to modeling. And then what we want to do is we want to look at this at a couple different views at first. So over at the side here, you should have a toolbar, and it has panel layout. So I'm going to click on that, and that gives us 4 views. And at the bottom of each view, you can see it as a word or some sort of description of the view. So this is the top view, and it has the letter Y next to it. And you can see here that Y represents the vertical axis here, and we'll get more of that later. And then we have a front and a side view here. So one of the best ways to learn how to navigate the interface is by actually creating a piece of geometry. So we're going to go up to the top here and go to Create. We're going to go to Polygon Primitives. Notice here that there's a cube. This is what we want to click on. But before you do that, make sure Interactive Creation is checked off. If you have it on, I'll show you a demo of that. So I went and clicked on it. You can see it's on now. If I click Cube, you can see it says drag the base on the grid and then pull up for height. So if I left click, I can drag and I can kind of create my own scale for these objects. What we're going to do is just use Maya's default. So we're going to go to Create Polygon Primitive. I'm going to uncheck that now. Go back up to Create Polygon Primitive. I'm going to click Cube again, and you can see it created it. Now, what you do is if you want to select a view, you just kind of click between them, and you'll notice as I click, it kind of has this green line, this light gray line around it, and that essentially means that it's a what's it called? It's been selected. So what I want to do is zoom in just on this view for now so we can take a look at how we can pan and move and rotate in this view. So what I'm going to do is once I've clicked in this, and again you see this line here, I'm going to hit spacebar, and that'll allow me to zoom in just on that view. Now I'm going to left click on this cube, and as you can tell it turned green. That means it's selected. And I want to focus on this cube for a second, so we're looking just at that. So I'm going to hit the F as in Frank key on the keyboard. And that allows us to zoom in just on this cube. Now I'm going to rotate around this cube by holding the Alt key, and that's the key located next to the spacebar. And then I'm going to hold the left mouse button, and that allows me to rotate around this cube. Now, it might get confusing at times where you're like, well, how do I know where up is and down, whatever? Well, if you go off to the side here, there's all these tools that are meant for moving our cube around. So if you go down, you can see that this is our selection. This will allow me to drag a selection, right? This is for painting vertices or modeling and so forth. We'll get into that later. And this is for actually moving our object. Now, what I want to do is be in sort of a modeling mode. Notice that right off the bat, I went into this weird vertex mode when I clicked that. I'm going to hold my right mouse button down and not release it on the cube. And that'll take me into this hot box, which will give me all of these different features, which we'll get into later. So I'm going to go up to object modeling here, and you can see it turned green, and now it's back in object mode. And if I want to move my cube, you can see here that it has the y-axis going up. This is my front view. Always remember that, especially the folks who are interested in games or animation. The Z is always your front, and that's the blue arrow here, and the X is this way. I'm going to left click on this yellow arrow and just move it above the grid line until I see that these lines sort of went underneath it. Now, a specific or clearer way of doing this is if I hit spacebar, you can see in my front view, it's sitting just above that. Again, if I hit F, I can focus. You can see, yep, it's sitting just on that. It's just sitting there, and then I can focus on all these views by hitting F in each one. Now, there's one issue here. I feel very limited and out of control. Like now it's cut off here. What do I do? So let's hit spacebar back in this view. And all you have to do is, if you hold the Alt key down, again, the Alt key is right next to the spacebar, and I click in my middle mouse button, you can see I can pan. And that allows me to pan the camera that's looking at this cube. If I want to zoom in on this cube, I just scroll my wheel in and out like that. So I'm just scrolling the wheel in and out. A more fine way of doing this is if I hold the Alt key down and I hold my right mouse button, you can see I can zoom in incrementally. If I hold the Alt key down and then the left mouse button, I can rotate. So make sure to like rewind this video and watch that section again, because in combination, you're going to be doing a lot of Alt middle clicking to pan and then left clicking to look at the object at different sides, and then the right click here to sort of zoom in and out. All right, so here we are. And what we can do now is, we have these combination of tools. Well, how do we actually edit this cube or move it around? So again, we can move it around with these different arrows. And we're going to be doing a lot of that in a little bit. We can also edit the physical shape of this cube. So I'm going to right click on this and go to edge mode. You can see I can select individual edges and I can move that up. I can right click and go to vertex mode, and that allows me to select these individual vertices and move them around. I can go to face mode, select these individual faces, move them each one independently. And then there's these other ones, vertex face, which I'm not going to get into. So the big ones you should remember is face mode, right click object mode, edge mode, and vertex mode. So I'm going to end this video here, and then what we'll do in the next video is we'll take a look at actually modeling our cube so that it becomes a ball.